One street over from my house, right now, a pickup is getting winched onto a flatbed, and the thing is barely broke in. 2 model years old. Paint still throwing that showroom shine. A bed that has never once held a load of gravel. Maybe 15,000 miles worn into the tires. And the fella in the driveway watching it go, coffee in his hand he is not drinking, gray coming in on his jaw. He is the man who bought it. He is about my age. Nobody stole that truck. Nothing under the hood quit. It runs like a top. It is simply going back. Here is the catch nobody tells you. There is no handing a truck back. Not one dealership in this country keeps a counter where a man lays down his keys and collects a refund. Sign the paper, pull off the lot, and the deal is welded shut. No week to sleep on it. No 3 days to walk it back. That return law folks are dead certain exists has never applied to a single vehicle sold in America. So no, the truth is meaner. All across the map, older folks are surrendering their trucks to the bank, or waking up to an empty driveway, or hauling them back to the lot themselves, still owing thousands more than the truck will ever bring. And that debt follows them right on out the door. Calling any of that a return is like calling a house fire a fresh coat of paint. Ride with me and I will show you how a $65,000 pickup turns into a leg trap in under 3 years. How to see the jaws before you set your foot in them, and how to work yourself loose if you are already caught. And hang on to the end, because there is a number about what 1 in 5 new truck buyers is now paying every month, and once it lands, you are going to be every bit as hot about it as I am. Every truck loan in this country is a foot race between 2 figures. The first is what the truck will fetch, and it only ever slides one way, down. The second is what you still owe the bank, and that one drops a lot slower than a man figures. The suits named the space between them negative equity. It just means the bank values your truck below the mountain you still owe. Here is how that space cracks open. The second you leave the lot, that truck hemorrhages value. A tenth gone inside a week. A fifth or more gone by the first birthday. The loan could not care less. Early on, nearly every dollar you pay is interest, plain rent on the bank's money, none of it buying you an inch of truck. So the worth line drops like a socket off the tailgate, while the debt line settles slow as a leaf coming down. For the first 3 or 4 years of one of these long notes, you are upside down almost the whole ride. Fellas my father's age bought their trucks on 36 months and never smelled this problem. A short note chews principal quick enough to outrun the drop. Nothing changed in the engineering. The steel did not learn to rust quicker. What changed is the paperwork bolted to the truck, pulled thinner and stacked taller in 2026 than this business has ever run it. That contract is what we are tearing down on the bench today. Not the engine. The engine is fine. It is the paper that is grenading. Everything traces back to the price, so start there. This spring the average window sticker on a new full-size pickup landed at $65,964. That is Kelley Blue Book's figure, not something I cooked up. And chew on it slow, because that is not the top shelf trim. That is the plain average. Your everyday new vehicle of any shape runs around $49,000, which puts a truck a full $16,000 over the average of everything else rolling. That gap is not the price of steel. The truck itself became a different animal. 20 years back a pickup was a tool. Bench seat, crank windows, a rubber floor you hosed out Sunday morning. The ones they push now are leather parlors on a frame, heat in every seat, a dash lit like a Vegas floor, trim badges named off a map of the Rockies. The honest, cheap work truck has just about vanished, because there is nothing in it for the man selling. Go hunt any lot for the stripper, steel wheels and cloth and the little screen, and it is a phantom. It lives in the brochure so the ad can quote a skinny starting number, while the plant turns out 9 loaded rigs for every bare one, each pocketing thousands more off the identical frame and axles. I spent 34 years back at Flint, bolting these together. The truck under a $45,000 trim, and the one under an $85,000 trim, are the same truck. What you buy climbing that ladder is stitching, glass, and a prouder badge on the gate. So the ante on the truck most folks drive home has floated towards 70 grand, while the money landing in the average house, and Lord knows the money in the average retirement check, did not budge to keep up. And I want to be square, because being square with you is the whole job here. Nobody made a man buy the ranch hand edition. But when the honest cheap truck quietly disappears, when the least thing you can kick the tires on starts at 60, the choice you believe is yours got settled months back, in a room you were never asked into. Now watch what people do when the sticker outruns the paycheck, and it lands hardest on the older crowd. They do not buy a smaller truck. Folks keep buying big. They stretch the loan instead. Last quarter, a record 23.9% of everybody financing a new vehicle signed a note of 84 months or longer. That is Edmunds. Damn near 1 in 4 agreeing to 7 straight years of truck payments. Widen it out, and 36.5%, another record, went past 73 months. 10 years back, that longer bunch sat near 27%. The average note out there now runs past 70 months. And here is the part that ought to sit a retired man straight up in his chair. 7 years of payment starting at 68 means writing that check until you were 75. An 84-month note signed at 70 means 77 before the title is yours, if you and the truck both make it. When I came up, a man aimed to cross into retirement owing nobody a nickel. Now the finance desk is handing 70-year-olds a loan that outlasts their own odds, and stamping it affordable. The down payments are shrinking on top of it. The average buyer laid down $5,815, which sounds like a real stack until you clock that it is under 12% of the price, thinnest slice since 2020. Less cash down, more months on the meter, and the average amount financed just punched an all-time high at $44,156. On a truck, that number runs way past average, because the truck was 16 grand dearer before the pen touched paper. Now the number I promised. 1 in 5, 20.3% of everybody financing a new vehicle last quarter drove off owing $1,000 a month or more. That ties the worst on record. 3 years ago, that group sat under 7%. $1,000 car payment used to mean you bought some German sedan with a warranty light built in. Now it is a full fifth of the market, and a fat share of that fifth is pickups, because a pickup is the priciest thing a regular person buys shy of a house. And folks, for a lot of retired people I know, $1,000 a month is the whole Social Security check, every cent of it, gone to a truck. Across all the new vehicles financed, the average payment came in at $777, one more record. Interest is parked right around 7%. Marry 7% to an 84-month note and a thin down payment, and Edmunds pencils close to $10,000 in interest alone before you own the thing. 10 grand, a clean used Corolla, bought cash, handed to the bank as a tip. You have to understand why that long note is both temptation and poison. Dragging a loan from 60 months to 84 shaves a couple hundred off the monthly figure, and the monthly figure is the only one they ever set in front of you. But the loan is front-loaded on purpose. That first year of an 84-month deal, almost every dollar is interest. You can make 12 payments, 14 grand out of pocket, and watch what you owe barely flinch. It is why they will quote the payment to the penny and turn to stone the second you ask what the whole loan costs over its life. For the first couple, 3 years. Your money is running somewhere you never would have okayed, so run those 2 figures I gave you. A $70,000 truck, 6 down, 84 months at 7. Year 1, the truck drops 10, maybe 15,000 in value, and your payments have barely nicked the balance, because the interest is swallowing the whole front end. Come the close of year 2, it is easy to owe 10 grand more than the truck brings on trade. That is the jaw of the trap. Hold the truck, keep paying, and the jaw stays a story on paper. It only slams when life reaches in. A bad scan at the doctor, burying a spouse, a furnace that dies the same week as the transmission, an insurance bill that jumped 40% with no reason offered. Then it is real. because you cannot sell your way clear. Selling does not clear the loan. You would sell the truck and still cut the bank a five-figure check just to be shut of it. And the payment is not the whole load on your back. Everything bolted around that truck got heavier right alongside it. Insurance on a new pickup has run up hard because the truck turned into a rolling electronics store. A bumper used to be a bar of steel you beat straight with a maul. Now it is a plastic shell crammed with radar eyes and sensors, and a parking lot nudge becomes a $4,000 or $5,000 claim, so the insurer prices every one of these like it is already wadded up. Repairs went the same road. Kelley Blue Book has the average shop visit over $800 now. The bill's up about 20% in a single year. Stack it honest. A four-figure payment. Insurance that bites you every month. Then fuel for a 3-ton machine, and repair costs climbing double digits. For a heap of households, plenty of them retired, the truck quietly slid into the number 2 line of the whole budget, second only to the mortgage. And for some of that 84-month crowd, it is not even second anymore. That is exactly where the country sits in 2026. First quarter of this year, 30.9% of every trade-in going toward a new vehicle was underwater. Highest for any quarter since early 2021, and the average heap still owed on those upside-down trades ran near $7,200, the most anybody has ever dragged into a first quarter trade, up 42% from 5 years back. It darkens the deeper you dig. 26% of the underwater trades were lugging over $10,000 in upside-down debt. Better than 9 in 100 were lugging over $15,000. So getting on toward 1 in 10 people stepping up to trade opened the whole conversation more than 15 grand behind, before they eyeballed a single sticker. Those upside-down trucks average right at 4 years old. Walk the math backward and you plant both feet in 2022, the empty lot years, when a discount was a myth and folks paid full sticker or over for whatever fell off the transport that dawn. Those buyers did nothing crazy. They paid what the broke market asked. They stretched the note to make the payment sit, and now the market has floated back to earth beneath them while the loan balance sat still. The tab from 2022 is landing in 2026. Now that word, returning, finally earns its place. Because when one of these owners smacks the wall, there are only 3 doors out of the room, and folks slap the word returning on every last one. Door 1. The underwater trade. You drag the truck to a dealer and he pulls a stunt that ought to be a crime to do with a grin. He folds your negative equity into the next loan. The old debt does not die. It burrows inside the new truck and hides. Say the book calls your truck 44 and you owe 52. He hands you 44 on the trade, scoops up the 8 you still owe, and clips it onto the price of the next rig. Now you are driving a $65,000 truck under a $73,000 loan. Day 1, before the new one sheds a nickel, you are already 8 grand under on it, further apart on those 2 lines than any straight buyer ever starts. And the one tool a dealer has to keep that payment breathing is the very one that dug the pit. More months. Edmunds ran the tape on those folks. The ones who rolled negative equity forward financed about $11,500 more than the ordinary buyer. Their payment climbed past $900 a month, and they are staring at over $16,000 in interest on the new note. 9 in 10 stretched it past 72 months. Better than 4 in 10 went the whole 84, meaning they will ride upside down on the newer truck longer than they ever did the old one. That is no exit. That is the identical trap with wet paint. Door 2 is the voluntary surrender, and it is the one genuinely surging. Folks typing "give back my car" into a search bar have been climbing for a couple years straight. You phone the lender. You say you are done, you cannot swing it, and you hand over the keys before the tow rig comes prowling. It feels honorable, and it is. But I will not lie about the machinery underneath. The bank does not forgive a dime for your good manners. It ships your truck to a wholesale auction. Here is the piece almost nobody learns until it is their turn. That auction pays wholesale, never retail. Your truck might sticker at $42,000 on some dealer's website, but in the auction lane it moves inside 90 seconds. Thousands under that, since whoever buys it needs margin to recondition and still profit. It sells for whatever the hammer calls, and then the lender peels off the tow, the storage, the fees, sometimes even new keys, and drops the scraps against your balance. Whatever is still owed after all that has a name, a deficiency, and it is your debt down to the dollar. On a truck buried deep enough, that deficiency runs 10, 15,000, and the lender can sue over it and garnish a pension or a social security check to collect. On top of it all, a surrender prints on your credit as a repossession. It can strip 100 points off your score and squat there for 7 years. Door 3 is the one no man walks through on purpose. The forced repo. You go quiet on the calls, and one morning you look out and the driveway is bare. And if you reckon you can outrun it, understand how the recovery outfits work now. It is not a fellow with a clipboard parked across the road. These crews run camera cars sweeping lots and neighborhoods all day, reading every plate they pass into a national database. And plenty of these newer trucks phone their own location home to the lender, right through the same wiring that runs the navigation screen. The truck you are hiding is wearing its own tracking collar. When the order drops, they know where it parks overnight. It gets hooked at the supermarket, at the clinic, in front of the grandkids, whenever the route fits. And then you owe the hook fee and daily storage on top of it all, just to pull your toolbox and the spare cane back out of the cab. And this door is swinging plenty hard. The slice of subprime borrowers at least 60 days behind on the payment hit right around 7% at the start of the year. Fitch, the outfit that grades this stuff, calls it the worst since they started counting back in the 90s. Repossessions last year climbed near 1.7 million, the most since 2009, which if you recall was the pit of the crash, the whole banking system on fire. The last time this many folks were losing their vehicles, the country was living through a collapse. This time there is no crash on the evening news. Just a truck payment that swelled quiet as a rising creek until it matched a house payment from 20 years ago, on a check that never rose to meet it. 2 more things before we get to who is raking it in, because they show the depth of the water. First, a customer an Ohio dealer described to the Wall Street Journal. A man came in to swap his electric F-150 Lightning for a Mercedes. He owed about $87,000 on the truck. The truck was worth about $47,000. 40 grand underwater on one truck. His gut said not to stanch the bleeding. It said bury the whole mess in something pricier. The dealer called it a fight he has every single day, and the whole machine is built to hand that man the shovel. The second one is quieter, and it is the part that eats at me. When Edmunds published the specific models turning up with the worst negative equity, it was no junk list. It was full of popular pickups and rigs known for holding value. Their own research chief said it flat. The problem is the financing, he said, not the vehicle. Even a genuinely good truck, solid, slow to lose value, gets wrecked by a brutal loan cinched around it. You can buy the exactly right machine and still go under, because the failure never lived in the frame or the driveline. It is in the contract. And coming from a man who spent his life on the mechanical side, that one is hard to say out loud. Want proof the market smells its own rot? Look at what they are throwing to move the metal. Right now you can find as much as $13,500 in cash back on a new Ram 1500. A manufacturer does not shovel 13 grand onto its flagship because things are going gangbusters. He does it because the crowd that can choke down a $70,000 truck at 7% is thinning out fast, and the numbers agree. Getting on toward half of every new vehicle now goes to households pulling $150,000 a year or better. A decade back, the new truck belonged to the working man. Today, that working man, and the retired one on his fixed check, is standing in the auction crowd bidding on the repo. Which brings us to the part that actually matters, because not one piece of this happened by accident. Follow the money. A dealership does not truly live off selling you the truck. The margin on the steel is thin. The real bread bakes in the finance office. Writing the note. The nudge on your rate. The add-on stapled on while you sign. And above all of it, the cycle. Nobody gets rich off you buying a reasonable truck on a short note, clearing it inside 4 years, and driving it another 12. That customer is a wrecking ball to the model. The fortune is in you buying more truck than you can use. Finance 7 years deep, coming back upside down by year 3, and rolling the shortfall into the next 7-year note. That one never leaves. That one is a check that lands every month for the rest of his days. The negative equity rollover is not a bug in the machine. It is the machine. The bank collects on $16,000 in interest. The dealer collects on a brand new contract with the old debt buried where you cannot see it. The plant collects because the trim with the mountain name carries margin the plain work truck never could. And that clean 4-digit payment is engineered to be the only thing you ever look at. Because a payment can always be sweetened with 3 small words. Just stretch the term. And nobody at that desk is twirling a villain's mustache. Understand, there is no back room where they scheme against you. It is quiet arithmetic, run 1,000 small times, where somebody chose the number that paid him over the number that would have covered you. And a customer broke in over 20 years to ask what is the monthly instead of what is the total. The truck quit being the product ages ago. You are the product now. Your signature, re-upped every 3 or 4 years. World without end. That is what is actually on the shelf. And here is what I keep gnawing on, standing across from that flatbed. A pickup is about the last honest machine a regular guy can still call his. A sound frame, a sound motor, and plain upkeep will carry it 250,000 miles. The thing is built to outlive the loan 5 times over. And we took that, the most durable thing most families ever buy, and lashed it to a piece of paper built so you never quite get to own it. Your granddad's truck was clear before the first freckle of rust showed. It sat in the yard a paid-for thing, owing nobody. The modern truck, for millions of folks, is nothing but a rented monthly payment with a cargo bed welded on. That is the true loss. Not the dollars, though the dollars are plenty bad. It is the owning. The quiet, unshowy freedom of a paid-off machine sitting in your own driveway that not one soul alive can come drag off. Nobody took it from us at gunpoint. We signed it away ourselves, 84 months at a crack. So here is what I want you carrying out of this. First, if you are in a truck right now and it is underwater, the smart play is nearly always the dull one. Keep it. Drive it. Every payment shrinks the gap, and the value quits falling off a cliff around year 4, right as your payments finally start biting real principal. Stay in the boat, and the truck floats back up. Second, do not ever roll negative equity into the next loan. If you truly have to get out, slide sideways into something cheaper, never up into something worse. Third, if you are buying, go by the old rules, because they hold up every bit as well as they did in 1975. 20% down. 60 months, tops, every dollar the thing costs you. All in under 1/10 of what you bring home. If the truck you want will not fit inside those lines, that is not the bank inviting you to stretch the term. That is the math telling you it is the wrong truck. Buy one trim down. Or buy the 3-year-old copy, and let some other fella eat the drop for you. Fourth, haggle the total price, never the payment, and line up your own money at the credit union before you set foot inside. Make the finance desk fight for you, instead of sitting there sizing you up. Do those 4, and here is the picture. A few years on, the truck in the driveway is flat out yours. The title lives in a drawer in your house, not a folder at the bank. And when the transmission finally wants a little love at 200,000 miles, you fix it, because a $2,000 repair on a paid-off truck is the cheapest thing on the block. And you know it is cheap, because you finally understand the machine and the paper cinched around it. Both, that is the whole game. It was never about driving the newest truck on the street. It is about owning the last one. Now do me a favor and drop it in the comments, and be straight with me, because this is the one subject where every man is sitting on a number he never says out loud at the coffee counter. What is the payment? How many months are you into? And knowing what you know now, would you put your name to it again? And if you have ever handed one back, Whether you called the bank yourself or they came in the dark, tell me how that phone call felt. Those stories school a man better than any statistic I could dig up, and I read every single one. Straight up, half of what I make videos about walks right out of what you fellas tell me down there. And while you are down there, if this old plant rat has earned it, tap subscribe, because next time we finally do the one I have promised forever. Lifetime transmission fluid. The factory seals the transmission shut, throws the dipstick out, and swears the fluid is good for the life of the truck. Next episode I show you whose life they mean, and here is your hint. It is not yours, and it sure is not the truck's. Out my window that tow driver just cinched his last strap down over the pickup. 2 years old, and it never got a speck of dirt on it. Run yours until the odometer quits before the frame ever does. Own it outright, folks. This is Frank.